telling if it's a function. Key thing, remember, if you look here, 8 has 2 outputs, not a function, right? Not a function, and your reason would be 8 has 2 outputs. The easiest reason for something being a function, what is our main definition? Each what? Each input has what? One output. Each input has one output. So when you get to the tests and you're kind of like trying to define it, this is the best definition. If you tell me something about the vertical line test, right now you should just have your unit open, not your computer at all. If you tell me something like it passes the vertical line test, that's okay for a reason, but that's not a good definition of what a function is. Okay? So we are back on page 40. On the bottom of page 41, any questions on determining slope for either one of those? Slope and the initial, y-intercept. Questions on those? Always on your graphs, this is worth a point for easy points of you telling me what are the axes, and then as you are taking a look. The last page, if you turn, question number 26, it says a hiker climbs up a steep bank. So when we look at them, A, B, and C all look steep at first. The next thing we are taking a look at, it says, then he rests for a minute. So they all kind of look like they are resting for a minute. And then it says he walks up a small hill, which automatically is going to eliminate this one. Because after pausing, we have to go up a hill. So it says he pauses and goes up a slight hill and then goes across a flat plateau. This one is not flat at the top, so this one can't be. And our choice happens to be A, so when you are looking at those. And then when you do 27, 28, and 29, you're coming up with the story. So this is what you have to have done to take the test. Our class period 2 takes it Thursday, 3 and 6 take it Tuesday. Each one is subtracting 11 each time. And notice that our x is only going up by 1, so each time we're subtracting 11, subtracting 11. This is going to be linear. Our reason, we are constantly subtracting 11. And then this one is definitely not linear, and our reason for it being nonlinear, it's not a straight line. Okay? So thinking about those as you take the test, here's what's going to be on your final. So this is back on page... If you would please turn to page 22. Page 22 in your notes. You must be getting ready to leave. Then I just need you to sit quietly and write this down. So the first standard that you are going to be looking at, I can find the slope of a function. And these are all going to be on graphs. So I'm going to give you a picture of a graph and ask you to only find the slope. How do you find the slope on a graph when you have a line drawn? Easiest way is rise over run. 4 questions, 8 points. It will not ask you to write an equation. It'll only say find the slope. I'll have some people write an equation. You're going to get it totally wrong. That gives you no points for writing an equation. I need only the slope, only the m value is what we're looking at. The next 4 questions on the test are going to be worth 16 points. I can solve a multi-step equation with rational coefficients. So when I look at your reviews, this is on the 10B. This is going to be questions 9 to 30 on 10B. On 10B, this is going to be questions 1 to 8. So as you do those questions, my hint is make sure you're checking your answers and taking a look at those. I can use slopes and y-intercept to graph a linear equation. This is going to be like 10A worksheets that you're doing, and on 10B, it's going to be questions 31 to 34. Again, this standard, there are going to be 9 points for 2 questions. So this is where you will actually see the graph, and I'll show you in a few minutes the 10A and 10B, which questions. And Each one of those, some are worth 4 and some are worth 5 points as you are looking at those, you are going to be asked to draw that graph. This is where you are looking at positive slopes go up to the right, negative slopes go down when you are thinking about your slope of a line. That might help you also up here to keep in mind that face, that positive and negative, and then also the zero slope, okay? And especially that face is going to probably be helpful up here with the slope, because a positive slope, a negative slope goes down. The nose is your undefined. You will probably have an undefined slope. And if you go across, this is trying to tell you that the slope is going to be 0. The last 2 standards that you're going to see, the last 2 standards that we are looking at are, I can compare properties of 2 different functions. This is going to be worth 6 points. So comparing them. And when you take a look at your 10B, that worksheet, the review worksheet, this is going to be question 35 to 40. The last standard, I can model linear relationships and interpret the M and the B. That is going to be like on 10B, question 41 to 47. 6 questions, that is going to be worth 14 points. I want to put this face to help me. And you will notice that none of them on this page have a 0 slope. But when we look at the general form of the equation, way at the very top, I would also write this equation. Y equals mx plus b. And by each of these graphs, I might try and write down what is my m and what is my b. Now the b is always where we begin. Okay, that's where we begin our graphs. And the m is how you move. So if I am starting the first graph, I'm going to look at this equation in this form. And I notice, Patrick, that my m is what? 2/3. Now, 2/3 is positive, so I know the line has to go up to the right, so I'm going to draw an arrow up to the right by that. My beginning point, Caitlin, if I'm looking at it, is where? What's my B? 1. And that's actually, please write down the ordered pairs, 0, 1. So, first thing I want to do is I want to go to my beginning of 0, 1. Next thing I'm going to do, just to remind you, is we are going to count up to, this is always my rise, and then my run. So I'm going to count up to and go over 3. And I'm going to put a point. Now I cannot go up 2 and over 3 again, so from this point, please put this point, I'm going to go down 2, put this on yours, and go backwards 3. And then I'm going to take my straight edge, and later in class you can get a straight edge if you are working on this, but most of you are going to be doing your Desmos activity, and then you are going to draw a nice straight line that goes through that, okay? So when you use your straight edge, hopefully you're going to do a better job than I do when I'm drawing that. So if we are looking, we have something like this. And then we're going to see that it goes through a letter. And in this case, it goes through the letter down here, which was F. So what that means is down below it says, use the slope and y-intercept of each graph, graph it, extends, cross out the letter on the grid. So every place down below where there is an F, I'm going to be crossing that off. And then at the end, when you're done with all of these, there will be certain letters left that will give you like the answer to the question. Okay? Please turn to that next page. As you look at page 47, this is where I was talking about that 1 through 8. Over on page 48. When you look at questions 9 through 30, it's been a long time since we've done those questions where you are solving the equations, okay? We haven't done a lot of solving equations lately. So you might want to kind of go back and make sure you take a lot of time. There are 4 questions on this one, and each one is worth 4 points. So you have from 9 through 28 with those questions. This last part is graphing, just like that 10A that we were looking at. So this last part right here, 31 to When you look at 31 to 34, that's like doing your graphs, like the 10A. And then that last part is when we are taking a look, is you're doing what is the slope and y-intercept and what does it mean?